All right, hello everyone, it's silverkyle, and today we're going to be doing my gaming update episode 16, and I haven't done a gaming update for 4 years now. I used to do this on a fairly constant basis. Every few months I would go over the games that I picked up, as well as what I was working on, either from a backlog or new games that I picked up at that point in time. But in the last few years, I really haven't been playing enough single player games. I've either been playing multiplayer games or focusing on other different hobbies like Omnibus, for example, and decided to do the monthly hauls instead of just everything. So that those are going to continue, but the gaming updates will be about what I'm actually playing. So it's not necessarily going to be what I picked up. It's going to focus on what I've been playing in the last few months. So that's what we're going to be focusing on. I've got a stack of games here that we're going to be going over for what I've been playing. And this is pretty much just the last 2 months. So I would say August, September, and October is what I've been focusing on. And I'm hoping to do one in another few months. Every quarterly would be awesome. If I could do it a little bit faster than that, like maybe every 2 months, I'd be even happier. But it really depends on what I'm playing. So let's start this off with the game that I've been playing by far the most out of, and that is just Apex. Apex Legends has completely taken over my life for the past maybe year and a half, I would say. I got into it on, I started playing it on the Switch of all. No, I did play it like a few hours on PC. Went over to the Switch because my brother was playing it, and then he decided that he wanted an Xbox to actually play because the Switch version is atrocious. This is by far, PC would arguably be better, but if you're going to play on console, PlayStation or Xbox is what you want to go with. And I just, I play it almost every day for at least about an hour, and sometimes if I'm not playing any single player games, I can play this a few hours on the weekend, like per day. I just absolutely love this, and I'm still having a blast. I need the Bloodhound edition though, because I picked this up originally. They have two versions physically, which is Lifeline, which was my main for the longest time, and they also had a Bloodhound. And now I'm leaning as Bloodhound. Of all the characters, there's Horizon, there's Caustic, there's so many different characters that I really enjoy, but Lifeline was my main for the longest time, and now I play as Bloodhound. So next up, let's talk about the single player games. So I've been playing a lot of games to try to form out a the top 10 of 2022. I have played a lot of 2022 games this year, but I haven't beaten a lot of them. And so what I did is I wanted to focus on some of those single player games. But to get to that point, because that I'm very specific on how I go about things, I wanted to play the first games in those series a lot of the time. So one of them that I want to get to, actually I have, is Bayonetta. The Bayonetta series. I recently played this game on the digital version of Bayonetta 2, but I just recently got the physical copy of Bayonetta 1, so I actually have the physical of it on Switch, and just the cover here, the blue, just pops so much. I absolutely love this, so that's why I had to get it. It's half the price of a physical release, so it's $40 here in Canada, so maybe 30 in the States or something like that, 30, 35. And I will say that I enjoyed this. It's just a crazy fast hack and slash game, much like Devil May Cry, with a crazy storyline to boot, much like Devil May Cry. The later series of Devil May Cry maybe, and it never got to this silly. She has guns on her heels, and she's just an absolute blast. I really enjoyed just the craziness of this, and there's heaven and hell, I think. It's kind of hard to follow because I wasn't necessarily paying attention too much because it's just so out there. It's more for comedic relief purposes, I guess. But the bosses in here are just absolutely insane, especially near the end of the game. Was it the final boss that I had a really hard time with? I had a really hard time. Also, there's a level where near the end, I don't want to spoil what's going on, but you kind of have to aim just in a straight line and just avoid hitting things, I think. And that I had a hard time with so many times that I thought I was doing actually something wrong. But yeah, this was a blast. Great hack and slash, fast-paced game. Really, it didn't look the greatest. It's on the Switch, first of all, and it is a port of an older game from the early 2010s. I think 2011, 2013 is when it came out, the first one. But really a fun time. You don't have to pick, if you want to get into this series, you could just pick up, if you can find a copy of Bayonetta 2, which includes the digital version of Bayonetta 1, if you don't necessarily need the physical of Bayonetta 1. Next up, I've played Splatoon 1, the campaign, very short, and then I wanted to do the same with Splatoon 2 because I wanted to play Splatoon 3. Now, granted, the Splatoon games, you're going to be playing the majority of your time in the multiplayer, and that's what I'm going to base it off of. But I generally still like the campaigns because they were a lot of fun. Like the first one that I had played on the Wii U really reminded me of Super Mario Galaxy, and I love that game. So mixed in with obviously the Splatoon mechanics of everything, where you have to shoot the paint to get around from point A to point B. But there were some similarities there that I really enjoyed from Super Mario Galaxy. And the first game probably took me about 5 hours to beat years ago. So I wanted to beat the campaign for Splatoon 2. I had played numerous hours online, so I knew exactly what that was like, but I wanted to play the campaign. And the campaigns, the storylines don't matter at all. One of the things that annoys me the most about Splatoon is it's prevalent in Splatoon 3, which I don't have here at the moment, but I played a little bit online. I can't stand when you start the game, it has the two characters, like news anchors or something like that are talking, and it wastes so much time. I wish that there was an option to skip it. If anybody knows that if there's a way to skip that other than just mashing the A button for them to just shut up, please let me know, because I can't stand that. But the campaign in this was awesome. I was having such a fun time, and the only thing is I got to the very end of the game, the last boss once again, and I'm having a hard time, and I'm like, how is this possible? What happens is that there's this character that tells you that he every once in a while wants you to use a specific gun. I like the dual guns the most. That every time that I had an option, that's what I would usually choose. There's a sniper option as well. That was kind of fun every once in a while too. But what was nice is that when he would do that, it worked usually for the level that you were playing. But another thing too is that it worked really well, and it changed the game and it changed the pace. So I did very much like that. Every level, every once in a while, you get a level that was completely different because you didn't get to choose the specific guns that you wanted. The only problem is that at the end, they choose the main gun as the first gun that you had at the beginning of the game. And for me, it was like, and it wasn't going fast enough, and I could not kill this boss. I looked up online, and if you just upgrade it, you can basically, then it's like a machine gun. And I hadn't upgraded anything throughout the entire game. So I think I was kind of like nerfed. I nerfed myself throughout the entire game. And, there were certain levels that I probably could have benefited so much more from upgrades throughout this game. But I didn't. I was like, I don't need to. There was never a point where I really felt like it was that hard. Every once in a while, I would have to restart a mission here and there. But for the most part, I was able to breeze through this. Tons of fun, just very aggravating at the end. And then when I saw that I could just upgrade, I was like, oh, all right then. So if ever you end up getting Splatoon 2, just remind yourself, I guess the other Splatoons as well, you can upgrade. So that's what I'm going to definitely do when I move on to Splatoon 3. Next up is A Plague Tale: Innocence. I got this because recently, like just in a few days, the sequel to this is going to be coming out. I can't remember what that one's called, but it's the sequel, and I really enjoyed this. It's on Game Pass, so that's why I played it first, but I was loving it so much that I ordered it online to have the physical version of it, and that's how I'll be playing the sequel, is on Game Pass, and down the line I'll pick it up in physical as long as I still enjoy it, which I assume I will. This is a really story-driven game. During medieval times, there's a plague going around, and it's a stealth game, and you play as the older sister of a younger brother who has like this disease, and there's a bunch of like a plague going around that involves rats, and the rats will eat people alive, and they're in giant swarms, while there's like this force out there that's trying to get the brother because they think that he has some kind of special power that could maybe stop the plague. Really interesting story. By far, that's the driving force of this game. The stealth aspects are still very good as well. And there's a bit of battling, but it's a specific kind of battling where you're throwing things more so, and you're using different strategies to overcome your enemies. And I really enjoyed it. I love this. The actors, though, the voice acting, it's all with French accents, and I loved it. This is some of the best voice acting that I've heard of in any game. And I really started to care for a lot of the different characters that kind of form your little group here. More so, the other thing too is that you're running around with your little brother, and kind of he's holding on to you the entire time. And it's a very different kind of game when you have a regular stealth game and you're ready to go engage with people, like Assassin's Creed or something like that, or Splinter Cell or something. You just have to worry about yourself, right? And you do have many ways to fight, but this is more so you want to be hiding and you do not want to engage one-on-one at all with these people, because you don't have a sword or a dagger or anything like that. You have a slingshot, and you shoot rocks at them, and you have different aspects. But later on in the game, you get a specific mechanic of the game that really allows that changes the whole game up. And I had so much fun. I did not expect that at all. Really, really enjoyed it. Love this game. I cannot wait for the sequel. So as you can see, I haven't really played any 2022 games yet. God of War. I have waited so long. I picked this up probably the year that it came out, or the year after, for probably half off or something like that. And just never played it because I wanted to play the original PlayStation 2, like the God of War 1, 2, and 3, the originals, not the PSPs or New Ascension or whatever it was, the hack and slash God of War games, where it was more of like a top-down view. And I played the first one, beat it, and I thought it was just okay, and I had started the second one, and I was like, yeah, these are okay, there's nothing wrong with them, but it wasn't really gripping me. And I knew that this was different because it's more of a third-person view and very story-driven. And so I said, okay, well, God of War Ragnarok is coming out. Let's play the first one. So I popped this in at the end of August, and it took me like probably about a week to beat, maybe a little bit longer, give or take 20 hours, a little under 20 hours, I think, because I was just going for the main quest. And I absolutely love this. I will say that probably playing the other games gives you the storyline for where Kratos is now. And it's such a night and day difference between who he was before, where he was just the god of war. He created chaos. He killed all these gods. There were so many negative things that happened in his life that he doesn't want war anymore. And now he has his own son, and he doesn't want his son to go that route either. But his wife passes away, the mother of the child, and they have to bring her ashes to the highest peak in the realms. And so all it is you just going from the lower edges of the mountain to the top. That's essentially the game. And then there's obviously different things that happen on your quest and on your journey here. And it's so well done. This is one of the best games that I've ever played. I honestly think it's in my top 10 video games of all time. I absolutely loved it. The combat, the story, the look of the game. I think that they must have upgraded this for because I was playing on my PlayStation 5. It looks gorgeous. It's one of the best games I've ever seen. And this game came out in 2018 for the PS4. I'm sure that there's an upgrade. I think I've heard of that they did that for if you play it on PlayStation 5. But this is, if you've never played this game, I strongly recommend it. Like, look at a trailer of the combat. If it seems like you're kind of, and there's a few puzzles here and there as well, which I generally like, and they're challenging enough to the point that they're not frustrating, but you feel a sense of accomplishment every once in a while when you do click into what you need to do. And there's a halfway mark in this game where you have to go back home for something specific. And for those of you that have played the game, know exactly what I'm talking about. For those of you that haven't, I don't want to spoil anything, but that was one of the best moments in gaming history for me. I loved that part when you have to go back home for something, and just that, when you get there, incredible. I absolutely just dug this game. I cannot wait for Ragnarok. If Ragnarok is as good as this, that will be at the top of 2022 and probably of all time, because that's probably in my top 10 video games of all time. Definitely my top 15. But I think honestly in my top 10 as well. One of these days I'll have to do that. All right, now we can finally start talking about the two 2022 games that I've played, and one of them I beat, one of them I'm currently working on. So everything that I've shown you so far I've beaten, and Stray as well. So happy that they have a physical release of Stray. And I think it's a rather expensive game digitally anyway. So this was $50 here in Canada, so I assume $40 for physical if you want it in the States. Worth every penny. It's a rather short game, but if you're a completionist, you could go up there to maybe like 15 or 20 hours, give or take. And it's almost worth it for going and retrieving some of the additional things, which are memories for a robot, basically. So this is a video game about a cat, and that's all I knew about it to begin with. I saw one trailer, and I knew that you were a cat, and I thought you were going around and, you know, you're in the streets in like New York City or something like that, and you're going from rooftop to rooftop, and you meet other cats, and you kind of help them out. That's literally all I thought it was. And there's so much more to this. It is still very much just a cat game. You have a button that meows. At the beginning of the game, there are other cats, and you can just go up and literally cuddle with them. You can just go over and just, if you find a little nook or a little nook that a cat would like, that you can go over there and perch yourself in there and hunker down and start purring and fall asleep. It's absolutely adorable. But the other thing too is that whenever there's no battle, it's once again a stealth game, but there are things that are out there that can kill you. And when you run away from them, most of the time I'm just running as fast as I possibly can and to go up to a higher perch, which is what a cat does. A cat, when they're in distress, you just see them run, and the moment that they're higher, they stop and they look at you, right? And that's exactly what this cat would do. And I felt like I was like, as soon as I was up higher, I would stop and slow down to just turn around and look. And I was acting exactly like a cat does. If you're a cat person, this is such a fun game. But the storyline in here, the backgrounds of what's going on while you're a cat roaming around in the city is absolutely fantastic. And what happens is you have a little backpack here, and you have this basically a robot called B12, and he kind of just helps you along in this journey as well. And it's so freaking good. I can't spoil anything because I really don't want to, because this is one of those games that to me is like Journey or Flower, and it's one of those games where the story is so well done that you owe it to yourself. If you're not a cat person, I really don't think that you're going to like it as much. But if you like story-driven games and you like stealth games, you have to play this game. I absolutely loved it. This is a phenomenal game for 2022, and just for video games as a whole, I want more of this. I've always liked those story-driven games that blow me out of the water. So very much, very, very, very high praise for Stray. And last but not least, I'm still currently working on this, but this is the game that I'm currently playing at the moment, and that is The Legend of Heroes Trails from Zero. I should really start with Trails from the Sky. I will be playing that, but probably next year. So what it is that the only negative about The Legend of Heroes, it's a negative and a positive. There's so many games in this series, and to really get the full story, you should be playing from the beginning, which is Trails in the Sky, Trails in the Sky, Trails in the Sky, Trails from the Sky, Trails in the Sky, I think is what it is. And there's 3 of them. I think that the first one was on the Vita, because I do have no, that's Cold Steel. The first one's on PSP, and I think there was a download for the sequel, digital on the PSP, but now it's all on Steam, so you can play those first 3 games. They released this one this year, because these games were all in Japan, and then the next one I think is Trails from Azure, which comes out next year, and then there's the 4 Trails of Cold Steel, Trails of Cold Steel. There's 4 of those, also all on the PlayStation 4 for that. And then I think they're making another game, Trails in Reverie or something like that. I might be mispronouncing that one, but that one's supposed to kind of complete the whole arc of the Trails from Zero, which has like two games, Trails from Cold Steel, which has 4, and technically the prequels to this, which is Trails in the Sky. So many games. Technically, this isn't the greatest place to start, but I've had no problem so far. I think that I might have just enjoyed certain aspects of the game, potentially later on, characters returning from the initial series, potentially, and just seeing where that all ties in. But this is it's a turn-based RPG. This one is, and it's, can we focus on that? Potentially? No? Maybe if I don't go into frame. It's not helping. All right, well, anyway. Turn-based RPG with sprites, and that's what this one is, and that's what Trails from Azure is, and the Trails in the Sky series. Trails of Cold Steel is actually third-person view, but I think it is still a turn-based RPG. Haven't played them yet, so don't quote me on that. But this is your detectives, and there's so much text, and the battle mechanics are incredibly fun. I really liked the turn-based in this, and they do have a fast-forward button. The other thing, too, is that if you wanted the best version of this, technically it would oddly be the Switch version or the PC version. The people that worked on the PC ended up having more quality of life features, and they did that. They worked on the Switch version as well, and somebody else worked on the PlayStation 4 version for when they ported them over to the West. So you still have a fast forward button. I wish I could slow it down just a little bit, because I wish that I just have different settings, and I think you do have that on the Switch and PC, and there's other quality of life features there. But still, I love this. The storyline and the battle system, and just having you're a detective, a group of 4 people that are detectives that are just brought up. You're very young. You're all very young. I think one of the characters might even be 14, and they're still part of this special task of the police force where they're doing detective work. And nothing crazy has happened. I'm about 10 hours into the game right now. And what it is mainly just figuring things out and having a lot of character dialogue and trying to piece things together. And you don't have too much say in necessarily what they're going to say or whatever. But if you like listening to the reasonings of detectives and what they would try to figure out and try to figure what's really going on to determine how they should go forward, and then you go in battle, and there's still a lot of the character, you can see the monsters on the field and stuff, so you can decide to either run away or go right into it, and there's different bonuses if you jump on them while they're turned around, and you smack them as well. You'd have to run up to them, and you have one button that can attack them before you actually get into battle, and then you'll get a bonus for that. And then there's different bonuses for one of the just recently, one of the battles that I had was these 2 gigantic monsters, and what would happen is that every once in a while they would summon other creatures to come over and that I've battled before, but they would show up in every round. They would bring them back. So what I had to do was use a bunch of different actions and spells, more so like spells or skills that my characters would have that would slow the actions of the 2 monsters that I was battling that were extremely powerful as well. I died against them the first time, and I was like, oh, all right, well, I got to use different strategies then. It's not just, if I can maneuver my characters in such a way and deal enough damage. No, I had to really choose which option I wanted to get to do as much damage as I can, but more so to slow these characters down. Loved that. Absolutely love that. So I'm so into this. Right now I've only got 2 2022 games that I'm currently playing. Like I said, I have played others, and I will be working on them afterwards as well. Pokemon Arceus, Triangle Strategy, and there's a bunch of other games that I have and that I will be getting in the next few months to then figure out what my top games of 2022 are. But that's where I'm at right now. Those are the games that I'm working on, that I've beat, and what I'm currently working on. I cannot wait for the next few months. There's so many games that I'm going to be picking up. Plague's Tale, I'm getting on the sequel, I'm getting on Game Pass. Then after that, it's Harvestella on Nintendo Switch. After that, God of War Ragnarok. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet come out at the very end. I will probably be picking up Crisis Core, but Crisis Core is just a remaster, putting it out on the PlayStation 5 and some other consoles as well. So I don't feel like that's an actual 2022 game. This is different for Trails from Zero, which is an older game, but this is the first time we ever get it in the West. So to me, that is a 2022 game for the West. So that's why I will still include it. And then Bayonetta 3, I'm hoping to play, but I have to beat Bayonetta 2. The Horizon games are other games that I'm going to be looking into. And then there's a few others that I will be working on as well. There's a lot. So look forward to I'm thinking that I'll do another gaming update in December sometime, either at the beginning of the month or at the end of the month is when I'm hoping to do this, to talk about all these other games and if I'm on track to beating specific games or not. The only negative, the one game that I would have loved to have played, but I won't be able to because I don't have the time to play the previous games, is Xenoblade Chronicles 3. I have Xenoblade Chronicles 1. I've played it on the Wii, but I never beat it, so I would want to play it on the Switch and beat it there, then go on to Xenoblade Chronicles 2, and then Torna before I play it, and that's just, a few hundred, like 100, 200 hours or something like that before I even play Xenoblade, like to play Xenoblade Chronicles 3 as well. 200, 300 hours, I don't know, to get all of those done. So that won't be happening, unfortunately. But next year I do plan on playing at least Xenoblade Chronicles 1. And the other nice thing is that next year in 2023, I have a list of all the games that I would have to play, the previous games that I know that are coming out, so I can start working on that at the beginning of the year and not at the very end, unfortunately. So my 2023 list should be a lot better. But there's also a lot of Trails games that I'll be playing next year, guaranteed, because I want to kind of play everything from that series. And there's a lot. There's the 3 Trails in the Sky, 0 and Azure, so that's 5. The 4 Cold Steel, and plus Reverie. That's 10 games. I'll have 0 beat this year. So I'll have 1. Still have 9 to beat, potentially. It's going to be wild. So thank you all for watching. I know this has been a very long video, but if you like these kinds of videos, give me a thumbs up. See, I normally don't say that, but the more, if I see that a lot of people enjoy this, the more I'll continue doing it, and I'll try to do it more often than I will. Hopefully we don't wait another 4 years for the next one. So thank you all for watching. You have been bearded in. Beardage!